What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. It's good to be here with you. Good to be here with you on what is it, Monday? A Monday night? That's right. It's a Monday night. It's time for FPV, and this is the American stream. I do the stream at 8 at night, so all the Europeans are sleeping, and we can talk about them, their love of wine and fine dining. I don't know. Welcome to the stream, everybody. It's good to be back. If you missed yesterday's stream, hi, I'm back. Miguel Costa says, we are not sleeping. Ooh, Miguel Costa. Quick, there's a European in the room. Everyone, call him y'all and say squirrel at him. Someone commented today, I forget the context. It was like, I can't believe you Yanks' ability to make squirrel a one-syllable word. Squirrel. Squirrel. Yeah, that's one syllable. Squirrel. Nope. Squirrel. Try it. But we're not here to talk about pronunciation. No. We're here to talk about your questions and your questions about FPV. So, in case you're new here, you're going to ask questions here in the chat. And some people are over here in the Discord server. These are my patrons. If you're interested in getting into the Discord server, you can join my Patreon. But you don't have to. I take questions from everyone. When I say I take questions from everyone, what I mean is that Blunty queues the questions up. Here's the queue. The queue is getting queued. There's only 7 questions in the queue. Quick, if we empty the queue early, we all get to go home. No, wait, that's not how this works at all. Now we're going to be here for about 2 hours and answer questions. Ooh, that's a good one. I'll put that one in the queue myself. By the way, if you want to make sure that your question, because we're gonna queue the questions up. Many of them won't get answered because there will be so many of them. And that's okay. That's just how life is. If you want to make sure that I get your question, the way to do it is to leave a super chat. I read basically all of the super chats during the stream. I feel like that's the deal with super chats and live streaming. So if you want to, you can hit the $sign down here at the bottom, leave a super chat, type your message in. We'll read those. I don't read those as soon as they come in because I like to keep the flow of the live stream going. We'll read those in a big block, usually the 20 to 25 minute mark. And in fact, let's just get this super chat right out of the way. How do you pronounce 90%? 90%? 90? Is it, what are we going for here, Mars? 90? I don't say 90. It's 90. We got the, what is it called? There's a thing we do where we turn T's into D's, basically, 90. I think it's, I don't know what it's called. I'm not an expert on pronunciation. I've watched videos about it. 90%? That's how I say it. 90%. 90%. I hope that answers your question. Are there any other words you'd like me to say? I don't know. 90. Yeah, that's how we do it. 90. I think it's called 90. I don't know. We just make T's into D's sometimes. That's how it is. My friend and editor, Fabio Pensera, he speaks English exceptionally well, but he's always trying to improve. And when I was out there visiting him a little while back, he was commenting on the way that we pronounce mountain. We don't say mountain, we say mountain. Mountain. And ever since then, I've noticed him going out of his way to do that, where we glottalize the T, mountain. And it's all these little things that we do that we don't even know we do because we're just swimming in the water. Okay, enough of that. Let's start taking questions. And I want to start with this question from T-Bone. T-Bone is on the Discord. Thank you for being a patron. Mr. Eddie Nunez, I do have a shotgun mic. Yeah, I have switched. I'm always like to talk about my equipment. I've switched to an overhead shotgun mic. It's got a little bit of a different sound than the up close mic, but there's no mic in the shot, and I don't have to oh, it's wrong. There we go. I don't have to worry about the placement of the mic, so it should still be pretty good, I think. But yeah, it's different for sure. Ceramic versus scrap wire ELRS antenna, which is better? So you're asking if you have an EP2 style receiver with a ceramic antenna. Here, let's pull it up. We've got an antenna like this, like the Radiomaster RP2, and this little thing here, this is a ceramic antenna. I don't know the exact structure of it, but it's basically, this is the antenna, this wire trace, and it spirals around, okay? And the thing is that antenna will have worse performance than a wire antenna. The exact degree of performance loss, I mean, it's at least 3 or 4 dB, and it may be more. It depends a lot on where the receiver is placed inside the quadcopter, because of course the whole point of this is that you can just place this. You don't have to mount an antenna. It's completely self-contained. And if you put that on a tiny whoop, where it's just sitting there and there's no frame or anything, then it doesn't really matter. But if you put that inside the carbon fiber frame of a 5-inch quadcopter, then it's going to see some reduction in range, because of course the carbon fiber is going to absorb the signal. And some people say, well, I'll just put it on the outside of the frame, well, in which case it will just get destroyed, right? So if you care about range and penetration, you're not going to use one of these, although you can still get very good range and penetration off a ceramic antenna, because Express LRS is just amazing. You may just have to use a little bit more output power, or you may have to reduce your packet rate a little bit to get your range back up where you need it to be. But a wire antenna is always going to be better as long as the wire is tuned to the correct length, because a wire antenna is going to be just going to get more. The ceramic antenna is inherently, I don't know if efficiency is the exact right word, but it's inherently just a little bit worse. So there you go. Storm Rider says battery voltage is saying 0 volts on DJI OSD and no Betaflight OSD after installing a TBS Nano Pro and updating to Betaflight 4.5. Checked everything, but still no OSD. So when I first started reading this, I thought, well, how in the hell could installing a TBS receiver cause your Betaflight OSD to stop working? And then I found out that he also flashed to Betaflight 4.5. And so, chances are that you configured something wrong. Keep in mind that Betaflight 4.4 and Betaflight 4.5 do not have exactly the same CLI commands for setting up DJI OSD. So my guess is that you followed a procedure that wasn't correct and you didn't set the OSD up correctly. What you should do whenever you set up a DJI OSD is you should go into Betaflight. You should go to the Presets tab, and you should find the OSD for FPV-WTF DJI 03 Avatar HD. And that preset is going to square you away. We'll do map to DisplayPort, set HDOSD, we'll leave those on, and then we'll choose our UART number here. We'll choose just one of these for whichever UART number the TX and RX wires are on, and when you then pick, save and reboot, it will make everything work probably. Yeah, that's my guess as to what happened. Hold on one second. How do I record OSD on the DJI goggles V2 and the O3 Air unit? I don't think you can. I'm sorry to say I don't think you can. So if you're using the V2 goggles with the Vista Air unit, then you can root the V2 goggles, which you totally should, and you can root the Vista, and then there is a plugin that will, first of all, it'll do the full Betaflight OSD, yay! And there's a plugin that will record the OSD information to a file on the SD card that you can then run it through a utility that creates a video with the OSD overlaid on it. It's not as good as having the OSD recorded in the video itself on the goggles, but the V2 goggles can't do that. If you have the O3 air unit, then rooting no longer applies. You're going to move the goggles from the Vista mode. They don't call it Vista mode. I think they call it DJI Digital FPV System. And you're going to switch them over to O3 mode. And in O3 mode, they're not rooted anymore. Rooting only applies to the partition of the Vista operating system, if that makes sense. And once the goggles are in O3 mode, they will bind to the O3, but they will not record any kind of like OSD file that shows the OSD information. And the reason for that, I think, is that when used with the Goggles 2 will record the OSD in the DVR. They just natively do it because they have enough horsepower to re-encode the video with the OSD overlaid. The V2 goggles do not have enough horsepower to do that. They just take the video stream that's coming into the goggles and dump it to the SD card without actually remuxing it or re-encoding it or anything like that. And they don't record the OSD information, and there's no root or anything like that to record the OSD information to a separate file like there is with the Vista. In other words, you're just shit out of luck, as far as I know. You're shit out of luck. Sorry. You just can't. The only way I can think of to do it would be if you do like an HDMI out using Cosmo Streamer. Does it have the OSD in it, or is it a clean feed? I think it outputs the OSD. In that case, you could run that into an HDMI recording device, and you could record it that way. But by God, that you would have Cosmo Streamer with HDMI out, and then some kind of an HDMI capture card going to a laptop recording. It would be ridiculously cumbersome and not worth the trouble for most situations. All right. Wow, that was a detailed answer. I'm just getting into FPV. Should I save up and go digital or start with analog? That's a tough one. Like, most people who go digital are very happy with digital and have no desire to go back to analog. They just are like, oh, analog looks like shit. Why would I do that? So I think that, like, there's reasons why you would say, no, you should go analog. People would make that argument. But I think that most people are going to be most happy if they just go digital if they possibly can. And which digital system should you get? That's a question for another day. But like the majority of people I know who have switched from analog to digital stay with digital and aren't interested in going back. The exception to that might be racers. So racers want very low latency. They want lightweight video transmitters. They want durable and inexpensive stuff so that they can build a lot of birds to take to races and beat the shit out of it and break it. For racers, HC0 is really I'm not going to say the only digital system worth considering, but because there are people who race on Walksnail and DJI. I'm not saying you can't do it, but Walksnail and DJI are not first and foremost for racing, and there are complications with integrating them into a race, and HC0 is made to be good at racing. So it's a digital HD system that's made to be good with racing. And there was a time in maybe the 2022, what was the year when Evan Turner first raced HD0 at Nationals, and it was like a big deal, right? I think it was either 2021 or maybe 2022. I'm not sure the exact year. I would guess 2021 if I had to guess. And in the chat, if you can tell me in the chat, we'll see if I'm right. If I was forced to put down a number, I'd say 2021. And there was a movement of a lot of racers using HC0, and there's certainly advantages to HC0. In the best case, the latency of HC0 is lower than almost all analog cameras. Not all, but almost all. So it's very low latency. It's higher image quality. So as you're sort of lining up gates and so forth, you can see better. And people firmly believe that HC0 has a competitive advantage. But I've seen in the last year or two, that some of those racers who were racing on HD0 have gone back to analog, and it'd be interesting to wonder why. I'm not going to actually weigh in on that because I don't feel like I actually know. But I say even for racers, my point is this: even for racers, some of the top racers are racing on analog, even though they could race on HD0 if they wanted to, and some of them did race on HD0 for a couple of years and then switch back to analog. So what I would say is if you're a freestyle pilot or just a fun cruiser, then a digital is probably the way to go, DJI or Walk Snail. That's what most people, I think, will settle on given the time. And if you want to just skip to the end of the story, that's probably what you should do. For long range or racing, you should consider analog and maybe HD0 for racing. That's how I would sort of sum it up. Chris Croft says the HD0 Nano 90 is best for racing. Well, I agree with you, Chris Croft, and I know why you say that, but it does make you wonder, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to call anybody out or put anybody on the spot. It does make you wonder, though, why some of the top racers who were racing on HD0 3 years ago, 2 years ago maybe, now are racing on analog. And it has to be, it isn't that they couldn't afford HD0. Because like if you're a top racer, you know HD0 will just sponsor you whatever you want, or you just have the budget to buy it. If you think it gives you a competitive advantage, you're just going to do it. So there had to have been a reason why they decided to go back to analog. And it's not the video quality, because the video quality is very good. So what was it? I don't know, and it would be irresponsible of me to speculate. But we have to acknowledge that that happened. Professor Biohazard suggests that it's durability. If I had to guess, it would be durability, but it would be irresponsible of me to okay, well, now we're just playing with semantics. If I had to guess, it would be durability. The HD0 has done a lot to increase the durability of the Race VTX, but it's hard to make it something like that as durable as just a nice little sort of bulletproof analog VTX that is going to take the hits. That's my theory, but I don't know. Let's get a couple super chats out of the way. It's a little early for super chats, but we've done a couple of regular chats. Let's do the super chats. We'll run through these super chats. We'll keep doing them until we run out. We got one here from Gloomy FPV who says, thank you for $10, by the way, Gloomy FPV. Thanks for all the great content. Just got into flying. Your videos have been very helpful. Oh, thank you. That's very rewarding to hear you say. 3D Printing Today says, thank you for $5, 3D Printing Today. How are you? I'm building a quad sitting at my workbench now. Ooh. I'm using the DJI O3 goggles to SpeedyB F4 Mini and receiver. Transmitter is flipped. My receiver tab isn't receiving. 3D Printing Today, I can talk generally about this. But for troubleshooting questions where there has to be a lot of back and forth, email is better. So I'm going to, I appreciate your donation. I'll give you my thoughts. But if you really want to work through this with me, you got to email me and I'll be like, okay, send me a picture of your wiring. Let me see your ports tab. Because there's a million reasons why it might not work. For example, you didn't even tell me what receiver you're using. Or what controller you're using. Are you using the RC controller? Or are you using, there's not even enough information here for me to begin troubleshooting this. Sorry to say. Blunty, is something going on in the chat? I see people saying the chat's on fire, and moderators, what's going on in the chat? Is there anything going on?
Do you see anything?
No, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm moderating the chat like I do every single stream. There's nothing wrong.
Okay, great. Great, thanks. Okay. 7. Thank you for a $10 super chat. Does charging below 1C affect a charger's ability to balance the cells? No, I wouldn't think so. But the charger has no idea what your C rate is anyway. Right? You're just charging at whatever amps you're charging at. Using the Hoda D6 Pro, my 6200 milliamp hour Radio Master seems to never fully balance. Sticker says max 2 amps charge current. So, how out of balance is it? Would be my first question. It should be pretty balanced. But some chargers, especially on larger batteries, may not get it to within 0.1 volts. They'll reach a point where they're good enough. It's balanced good enough, and then they leave it alone. And on bigger batteries, that may be a little more than you would prefer. But if it's wildly out of balance, then what's stopping the charge cycle? That's the question. Why is the charger stopping before the last cell comes into balance? Is it hitting? Some chargers will have a safety timeout where after like 3 hours, they're like, okay, this battery isn't charging. Like if I had a battery that never finished balancing, I would suspect the battery had a problem. Like you had a bad cell with high internal resistance. Yeah. What you're saying is the charger never goes green or blue. So the charger is just continuing to try to charge the battery, and the battery is not taking a charge. That's a very dangerous situation if we've explained it correctly. Anytime you've got a charger that's putting current into a battery, but the battery's voltage is not rising, that current is going somewhere. It's turning into heat probably. And when you've got current going into a battery turning into heat, that's a recipe for a battery fire. And I'm not saying, because we just don't have enough information here on the chat, I'm not saying this battery is dangerous, throw it out, it's going to burn your house down. But I am saying that we are potentially in a dangerous situation that we should really try to be aware of. If it's refusing to balance, it makes me think that last cell is damaged and it's like the internal resistance is too high or something. Joe Redwine, thank you for a $5 super chat. QAV V2 analog build past the smoke stopper beta flight isn't recognizing the flight controller. Is this a driver issue? Windows 11, good cable. So we'll take your word for it that this is a USB cable that passes data. Not all USB cables pass data. Some of them are made just for charging your phone. And if you've got a USB cable that came with a phone charger or came with a phone, then chances are that it doesn't pass data, and that's why it won't connect to the flight controller. But you're saying that's not what's happening. So I'll take your word for it that it's a good cable. Like you've tested the cable with a different flight controller and it works. So you know the cable is good. If any flight controller works, then the drivers are good because they all use the same drivers. Except that's not exactly true, because like there's flight controllers out there that use the not the STM32 chip, but the AM32 chip. Like there are these new budget flight controllers with the AM32 chip in them, and those require different drivers than the STM32. So without knowing what flight controller you have, and I understand the super chat only gives you so many characters to play with, without knowing your flight controller, it's impossible to say, but that's one thing I would look at. Is it an AM32 flight controller? And do you need to download the AM32 drivers? That could be
AT32.
AT32. Oh yeah, AM32 is the ESC firmware. Thank you, Blenty. AT32. So look at your flight controller product page and see if it's an AT32.
Just run Impulse RC driver fixer. That's what I would say.
I mean, here's the thing about that. I know people do that reflexively, but the Impulse RC driver fixer fixes DFU mode. So that shouldn't affect your ability to connect. Although I've seen at least one case where it did, and I don't like it. It's not a bad idea, though. Download and run the Impulse RC driver fixer and see if it fixes it. I think that's more likely to be an issue if you're trying to flash than if you're trying to connect, but it's not out of the question.
Yeah.
And then you could... Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say, then it starts to get complicated, because if you have a good cable and it's not showing up in Betaflight, then you sort of need to go down the driver route. Like you need to look in Device Manager to see what it's showing up as, and then sort of follow that pathway. Does
it power up at all, or does it just stay down? So Joe Redwine says it's the Stax flight controller from the Joshua Bardwell budget build. In that case, it is STM32, and the Windows drivers should just... Well, have you ever connected a flight controller to the computer before? Have you installed the STM32 virtual COM port driver? If not, that could be why. He hasn't. Oh, so you're just brand new. Okay, Joe, here's what I'm going to suggest you do. I want you... So this is linked in the build tutorial, but it's not actually a video in the build tutorial, so it's possible it was overlooked. It's possible you missed it. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to this video, Betaflight 4.3, Install Flash Setup tab, Complete Walkthrough Part 1. Just search YouTube for that title. And in this video, there is download and install Betaflight Configurator, first time configurator setup, And there better be instructions in there to download the drivers. Yeah, STM32 Virtual COM Port driver. Is my OneDrive still working? Apparently not. So you probably need to download and install this driver, and instructions for how to do that are in this video. Okay? Okay. That's most likely what's gone wrong. Now, you only need to do that once, but once you do that, then it should work. Joe Wedwine says device manager shows unknown USB device. Yeah, that suggests that you don't have the driver installed. Will it, Blunty, if he downloads the Impulse RC driver fixer, will it install the driver for him, or will it only replace the driver if the driver's already installed? Do you know the answer?
No, I'm pretty sure it will detect it and install it. And it will grab anything that's an STM32 and it will just do its business. That's my understanding of what happens, but that may be incorrect.
Well, it's worth trying, Joe. Download the Impulse RC driver fixer, run that app, and plug your flight controller in. Does he need to plug it in DFU mode?
No.
Fuck me.
If you plug it in normal mode, it'll kick it into DFU, I think. Like, and install the STM32 bootloader. But my understanding is that it will still grab it anyway. But if he says it's not picking it up, then and it is showing up in device manager and it's not picking it up, then I would install what you said, the VCP.
Okay, the takeaway is, he says Impulse RC driver fixer didn't detect the flight controller. I think you got to install the STM32 Virtual COM Port driver, which you can download from that video that I showed you. That would be my recommendation. Thank you for the super chat, and good luck with the build. What is a reasonable number of drones to own? Thank you for $2, 3 blades. I mean, there's no answer to that. Some people have 1 million. Some people have as many as you can regularly fly. That's what I would say. I personally don't like the idea of sort of collecting drones for the sake of collecting them. I want to see them out there getting flown and crashed and used. You know, like if you're like Jay Leno and you like to collect cars and you turn it into a museum, okay, I guess I could see that. But if you just hoard drones or cars or guitars or whatever, and you just put them on the shelf and never play them, and like it just seems like a real waste to me. Obviously, it's your money. Do what you want to do with it. I'm not really like saying anything bad about you. But now I have a wall. Says the man with a wall full of drones. I fly. Each of those drones has a purpose. When those drones don't have a purpose anymore, I move them on to a person. I sell them or give them away. 100%. Like two of those are my 5-inch racing drones. 2 or 3 of those are my 5-inch freestyle drones. One of them is an analog drone that I keep just so I have at least one analog drone on the shelf in case I need analog for something. One of them is a walk snail drone that I have for the same reason, etc., etc., etc. Like as a drone professional, I have a need to have a variety of drones at my disposal for the reasons, to do my job, right? But again, as soon as those drones are no longer useful or not getting flown regularly, I move them on. That's what I would say. But there's no answer. It's whatever the number you decide. However many your wife will let you buy. Theodore Cornwall, thank you for a $20 super chat. How do I get longer flight times on my Tiny Hawk 2? Right now, I'm getting 2 minutes on a brand new 1S 450 milliamp hour. Do I get a bigger battery? Is this normal? Where's the compromise? Should I be satisfied? Theodore, the first thing I would ask you is how low are you running the voltage before you stop flying? If you're used to flying larger drones, you may run the voltage down to maybe 3.5 or 3.6 volts. But on a little 1S drone, you got to run it right down to like 3.1 volts or maybe even 3.0 volts. Those little 1S batteries, first of all, like I was about to say they have less sag, but that's not even usually true necessarily. You basically, to get any reasonable flight time out of a little 450 milliamp hour battery, you got to run it all the way down to the wire. And the nice thing about it is, if you have a 6-cell battery, you might be running one cell down to 2.8 volts and damaging it without knowing it, because you have 6 cells and you only see the average voltage of all 6 cells. So one cell might be running low. But if you have a 1S battery, well, you know the voltage of the cell, and you can run it right down to 3.1 or even 3.0 volts, and you know you're not damaging it. You just need to land it immediately so it doesn't go below 3.0 volts. The other thing is that you definitely need a battery with a BT 2.0 connector, and you need a high quality cell. You need to put a BT 2.0 connector on your quad. If you have PH 2.0, get rid of that, solder a BT 2.0 pigtail onto your flight controller. Don't get an adapter, that defeats the purpose. And get batteries that have BT 2.0 connectors, and get good quality BT 2.0 connectors as well. Jacob Rosenfeld asks, does the same rule apply to a 4S battery? Well, no, because number one, with a 4S battery, you just have more watt hours to begin with. So you don't need to run it as close to the line to get reasonable flight time out of it. You should be getting more reasonable flight time. But with the 1S battery, there's so little energy in the battery to begin with, you just need all you can get. The other thing is that with a 4-cell battery, let's say I told you that the voltage of the battery was 12 volts, okay? So 12 volts is the voltage of the battery. You have 4 cells. That means each cell is 12 divided by 4 equals 3 volts. Aha, well, everything is fine. 3 volts, I mean, I've run the battery completely empty. But no, one of the cells might be at 2.8 volts and one might be at 3.2 volts. And the average is still 12 volts, but one of those cells is being damaged. So anytime you have more than one cell, if you run it all the way down to the absolute bare minimum, you're risking damaging one of the cells because they don't discharge evenly. But with a 1 cell, you just know, and you can run it right down to the bottom. Okay, so that's how to get longer flight time out of your Tiny Hawk 2. Don't underestimate the value of buying a good quality cell. If we go to We Bleed FPV, this is where I like to go for Tiny Whoop related stuff. We Bleed shop, batteries, chargers, etc. Can I find a 450? How do I find? Can I just search? Price? No. Okay. No. Can I search? No, you can't find. You don't sell any 450s? I don't believe you. I do not believe you. I do not believe you that you don't have any 450s. Ciati, am I crazy? Here's a 2S 450. That's not what I want. Oh my God. What the frick? I'm taking crazy pills. Here we go. There you go. That's it. That's what I wanted. Oh, it's because there's no space between 450 and Ma. Okay. Yeah, so like this is a good battery. Although, does it come with BT 2.0? It better. Yeah, pigtail or direct plug BT 2.0. This is a solid battery. Good quality cell, BT 2.0. You're going to do really well with something like this, although they're not cheap. So they're not as cheap as the bad ones. TinyWhoop.com, also very good. TinyWhoop.com. How come no one has actual data that BT 2.0 is better? What are you talking about, Tony DiMaggio? Everyone did that testing 3 years ago when BT 2.0 came out. The point was proven. It was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. And then we all moved on with our lives. Like, for example, proof that Beta FPV BT 2.0 is the best Tiny Whoop battery connector. Joshua Bardwell, 4 years ago. That's the exact video you're asking for, right? Boom. Yep, I tested like 6 batteries. Here's the difference. The blue line is BT 2.0. The red line is PH 2.0. Huh, which one's better? BT 2.0, clearly. Good enough for you? No? Okay, Chris Rosser. Which Tiny Whoop batteries are the best? Chris Rosser did testing as well. And I don't know if he had a specific chapter on BT versus PH, but again, what fucking batteries did he even test? Oh, man. Sometimes I struggle a little bit with his test results, just because it's finding stuff. BT 2.0, GNB 27, etc., etc. There's a little more variety here because Chris didn't test identical cells, one with BT and one with PH. So, like, you could have a really good cell with a PH and a bad cell with a BT, and the PH wins. But there's just no question that BT 2.0 has less voltage sag, less resistance. It just gives better performance. Everyone it's just established. It's a fact. Point made. Tony says, I don't see better flight times. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you.
It's okay. He's been banned in the channel.
Really? He's banned?
Yep. Yep.
What did he do? Oh,
he's trolling you.
Nope. Oh, yeah. I call BS. Okay. Show me a chart. I did show you a chart. Was that before or after I showed him a chart?
You showed him the chart, and then he said that's BS after you showed him the chart. And he moved the goalposts. Like he's trolling. So he's banned.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Wow. Okay. Yeah. BT is better. Period. All else being equal. You give me a good quality square cell with a pH, it's probably going to beat a shit quality pillow cell with a BT. So also buy good cells, but there's no question that BT is going to improve over pH, all else being equal. Chubby Medic, thank you for a $10 super chat. If it wasn't your videos, your live streams, and your community, my first flight 2 days ago would not have been possible. I'm running a Moxie 5. Any suggestions for an indoor quad with O3 for those rainy days? The indoor quad that I recommend, and it's not like with O3, I think the Flywoo Flylens 85 light version with the naked O3 is the best flying, well, one of the best flying. I won't say the best because there's other ones out there, some that I haven't even flown. So let's be responsible. It's one of the best flying. Oh, look at that. Oh, Flywoo, what have you done with your website? That's sexy. All right, Flywoo. Yeah, you see here we have, I can, Flywoo! What the hell? Okay, Flywoo, that's badass. Got a 3D model of their drone. Yeah, so they've removed the heat sinks from the O3. As a result, it overheats in like 15 seconds, 45 seconds, if I remember right. It overheats real fast, but if you start flying, then it flies amazing. And to me, this is like one of the best micros with an O3 in it. They make a Flylens 75, and you could try that out, but like the Flylens 85 flies pretty good. So my guess is that the 75 is going to feel a little heavy, and I think I would take the 85 even for indoor. If Ciati disagrees with me, though, you should listen to him instead. Would having pH motor connectors make BT 2.0 battery leads pointless? No. Nope, I don't think so. It would be better to direct solder your motors, but ultimately, you still have some advantage there. What Beta Flight OSD canvas dimensions would you recommend for DJI Goggles 3? Yeah, easy peasy. So DJI, so Betaflight has a parameter called the canvas dimensions. And that is the number of pixels or characters wide and high that the OSD is. And it's different for every one of the video systems. And here's the interesting thing. You would think that the video transmitter would just tell the flight controller what its dimensions are, but it doesn't. Except HD0, I believe, does. And WTFOS, I'm pretty sure, does. But DJI doesn't because FU, that's why. So for the DJI O3, the correct canvas width and height is a width of 53 and a height of 20. And how did I figure that out? Here's what I did. I set the OSD canvas width to like, I don't know, 10 by 20. And I took an element, an OSD element, and I put it all the way in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. And when I looked in the goggles, instead of being in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, here we go, we'll go to the lower right. Instead of being down in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, right, it was like up here. I was like, okay, so that canvas clearly isn't big enough. So then I made the canvas wider. And then I moved it to the corner of the screen. And I basically just, trial and error, just added one to the canvas and rebooted the flight controller until when I put the OSD element in the corner of the screen, it was like right up against the edge. And then I extended the height until the OSD element was all the way in the lower right corner of the screen. And I was like, ta-da! That's the correct answer. And then I just did that for every video system that I had and wrote down the numbers. So for the O3, it's 53 and 20. Nope, wrong screen. There we go. Got it. Hi, JB. I'm trying to manage charging 12 pieces. 2,000 milliamp hour 6S LiPo quickly for a full day job. Is it better to get 4 pieces SkyRC B6 Neo or 1 piece Hoda F6 for simultaneous charging throughout the day? I would take the Hoda F6 because the Hoda F6 is a good quality, like a really solid charger. The SkyRC B6 Neo is kind of meh. I'm not even sure if we compare the specs. The Hoda F6 may charge faster. How many channels on the Hoda F6? Is it 4 channel? 4 channel. Yeah, I get the Hoda F6 for sure. Yeah. Robocopter FPV. How do I convince my wife to let me fly more? Thank you for a $2 super chat, Robocopter. Tell her that it's for your job. I don't know. Here's what I would say. Have a good relationship with your wife where you communicate about your needs and desires and so forth, and be an independent person. Like people, I don't get it. I mean, it's a normal thing. And so I accept that it's like a thing that happens to people, but like many things that happen to people that people accept as normal, I kind of don't understand it. Like, if I want to go fly, for me, it really is my job. So what's my wife going to say? But like, if I'm like, hey, I'm going to a race on Saturday, I just go and I say, hey, there's a race on Saturday, by the way. And then if she's like, okay, cool. And if she's like, oh, I had this thing with my friend on Saturday afternoon, I was hoping you would watch the kids. Then I'm just like, okay, well, we figure it out. But I don't know, I don't get it. Guys who are like, hey, honey, can I go fly this afternoon? And she's like, you have to do the dishes or whatever. I need you to clean the gutters. I'm like, the idea of asking another adult for like permission to do something with my own time is so weird to me. And the fact that so many apparently normal people consider that a normal part of their marriage is also extremely weird to me. But I'm probably the weird one. Yeah. So I don't know. How do you convince your wife to let you go fly? Remove the idea of permission and communicate about your needs, wants, and desires, and then come to a consensus collaboratively. And then at the end, if you decide not to fly, you will be deciding not to fly because you have together realized that there is something you care about more. And if you do go fly, then she'll agree that that's what you should be doing. Good luck with that. Chris Coatman, thank you for a $5 super chat. I am running the Jumper T Pro V2 with Crossfire Nano. I can't seem to get telemetry to show up on my transmitter, but I do see it in Betaflight. What do you mean you see it in Betaflight? What kind of telemetry? You see it in the on-screen display? That's different. She is an angel, Jacob Rosenfeld. My wife is way better than I deserve. I mean, I'm pretty awesome too. So. Go to the receiver tab. Make sure that telemetry is enabled. Otherwise, you won't get any telemetry from the flight controller back through the receiver. That's my first thought, that you didn't enable that. You tell her, I'm going flying today. Make me a sandwich while I'm gone. And have the house clean when I get back and a mixed drink ready to give me as a woman should. And then you won't have a wife anymore because she'll divorce you. And then you can fly whenever you want. Hey, Kim Fused and Garter Rotor, what do you think? You guys are married. I believe you're married. What do you do? Oh, you both fly. If one of you's like, hey, I want to go fly, the other one's like, me too. Gigantical, thank you for 50,000 IDR. Is it safe to use a 200-watt laptop adapter for a LiPo charger power supply? Yeah, you can, but what I would say, if you travel a lot, you should buy a LiPo charger that has a built-in power supply and save yourself the trouble. That 200-watt laptop adapter, like, I think you're going to create problems for yourself, potentially. So, like, maybe it's not really rated for 200 watts. It can be easy, especially if you're running a big battery charger, like you were asking about the Hoda F6. You're going to potentially pull more than 200 watts, and I think you should just be buying one with a built-in AC power supply that'll just do it all for you. That would be my take. What stack do you recommend for a 7-inch long-range quad? I have the iFlight stack, solid. The SpeedyBee F7, inexpensive, good quality. Yeah, no problem. I was gifted a Rush F7 stack. Any way to use DJI with a UART? It has weird pins for expansion. Yeah, the Rush Core F7, it has, like, it doesn't have a lot of pads, it only has pins. But, like, will it not do what you want it to do? Oh, this only is set up for analog. Is that it? It doesn't have a digital. Fuck. I mean, I don't know if I would, man. I don't know if I would. Receiver UART 2, 5-volt bat, RX5. Like, there's a UART here. It's gonna be clunky though. LED receiver, yeah. Like, you don't really have a solder pad for your Is this RX3 right here? I don't know. I probably would use a different flight controller, frankly. I probably, because this one, the wiring is so limited. Expansion socket. See, if you look at the expansion socket here, there isn't any like UART there. Oh yeah, there is. Wait, TX1, TX4, RX1, RX4. Expansion socket. But that's...
This is that pin stack. Remember?
What the fuck is that? Why you got a UART in the pin stack? Where's that going? Oh, it's made to have the VTX stack on top.
Yeah, I think we've complained about this specific board before.
No, skip it. I'm sorry. Use this for an analog build. This isn't worth the trouble.
Go ahead, here's what I'm going to say. If you, like, are poor or don't want to, like, really can't handle this, like, you might be able to use, like, a servo plug or something on those pins to get the wires out. Otherwise, you're, like, manually soldering to them, and it's crazy. And it's not meant to be done like that. You know what I mean? There's really not a lot of good options here.
No, there really aren't. You know, if you, like, if you're, you know, if you just have literally no other choice. But the thing is, you have an O3 air unit, so, like, chances are you have other choices. Because, like, O3s don't just grow on trees. So, yeah, use this for an analog build and just get another flight controller is my actual advice. Has a drone ever injured you? Not seriously. Nah, knock on wood. I have gotten slapped by a prop before. What I mean by that is, like, my hand came up on the underside of the prop, so that instead of digging in and cutting me, the prop kind of just went thump, 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 and, like, I got a kind of a slapping sensation, and I went, oh shit. Twice in my life, I have armed a quadcopter while I had it in my hand by accident. And in both cases, I by luck or by skill, didn't get injured. Some of that, I say by skill, because some of that is that most of the time when I'm holding a quad, I'm paranoid about how I hold it, and hold it in such a way that if the props spin, I wouldn't be hurt. But, like, obviously that's not 100%. So...
I'll say I did that when I started, and then you do two-stage arming and you never do it again because it hurts so bad.
No, I'm not doing two-stage
up
arming.
like 3 of my fingers.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing two-stage arming. I'm too good for that. This is my safety, sir. This is my safety. I've only shot myself twice in my career. I don't need a safety. When JB demands a mixed drink, what does he drink? Thank you for Jacob Rosenfeld for $2 super chat. This will be the last super chat in this batch. Then we're going to go back to the regular chats, and we'll do another batch of super chats in 20, 25 minutes or so. So if you want to get those stacked up, you can. I want to let you know if you're waiting for me to finish pandering to the super chats, that time is coming. Mixed drink, gin and tonic, good choice. Old fashioned, good choice. And then I recently became aware of something called a Godfather. And a Godfather is basically, it's like bourbon and amaretto. So it has similar like a balance to an old fashioned, but instead of like the cherry liqueur, you've got the amaretto adding the sweetness. And I don't think there's simple syrup because the amaretto is pretty sweet all by itself. Called a Godfather, and it's a very nice. I'll drink bourbon like on the rocks sometimes. Seldom neat. I think bourbon is a little too sort of heady, unless it's just something really special and I don't want to water it down at all. I usually like it a little bit cold. I actually have not in the last year. I'm not saying I abstained completely, but I've actually cut back pretty significantly on the alcohol. My doctor was like, "Hey, this not a big deal, but your liver is a little less than optimal." And I was like, "Why?" And they were like, "We don't really know. Go get some tests." They were like, "Yeah, you get old, your liver gets messed up, whatever." I was like, "Oh, that's not a very satisfying answer." So in the process of going to get like blood tests and all this nonsense, I was like, well, if your liver is a little questionable, maybe you should just stop drinking alcohol because alcohol is pretty bad for your liver. So I cut the alcohol out almost completely. And then, 3 months later, we was back in for more tests and the liver was fine. And I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe that's it. So not as many lives. Remember when I would come to the live stream and I'd have a cocktail and then I'd chug the cocktail and then I would do a big giveaway where I'd just give away a bunch of 3D printers because I was a little tipsy and a little loopy. Yeah, sorry. But my liver is healthy. Healthy-ish. Yeah. Alrighty, back to the chats. Good evening, Bardwell. I ordered a Mobula 803. Can I put a GPS on it? The answer to that question depends on if there is a spare UART on the flight controller. So let's see if we can find the flight controller for this boy. Mobula 8 Digital HD 03 Lite. What flight controller does it have? Crazy F405 ILRS HD flight controller. Boom. Okay, we got the flight controller now. And what we want is like a pinout diagram. Bingo, there we go. That's what we want. So here's for the DJI O3. That's in use. We're going to have a receiver. Where's the receiver going to be? Oh, no, I think you're good. So we could put the receiver here on UART 2. Wait. Oh, shit. UART 1 is being used here, so that's out of the question. UART 6 is going to be used for S-Bus. Okay, no, you're good. So you got your DJI here. You're going to cut the S-Bus wire because I assume you're not using the DJI RC controller. I'm going to assume you're using Crossfire or Express LRS. Wait, this has built-in. Does it have built-in Express LRS? Oh, shit, yeah, it's got built-in Express LRS. Okay, never mind. Forget the receiver. You don't even... You can put the GPS on UART 2. Or cut the S-Bus wire, because I assume you're using an Express LRS controller, and then you can put it on UART 6. The only UART you can't use is UART 1. You are good to go. Also, you cannot use the compass because it doesn't have an SDA and SCL pad, but that's okay. Betaflight doesn't use the compass anyway. Bing, bang, bong. Oh, my goodness. We got 1 more hour to go. My Boxer ELRS 2.4 has bad interference with the HD0 goggles. Yeah, it's recommended to run the Express LRS TX at 250 milliwatts or less, or you get interference with the HD0 goggles. That's straight from Brian Quellet. The last time I did an HD0 video, I forgot that I had my transmitter running at 1 watt, and it was creating interference. I wouldn't say the interference was bad, but it was noticeable, especially if you knew what you were looking for. Pause for a second. Mupshot says that the internal ELRS receiver is on UART 2, therefore UART 1 may be the only available option for a GPS. Mupshot, thank you for pointing that out. That goes out to KMBFPV, who was asking about putting a GPS on his Mobula 8. Thank you for that. So, yeah, so the answer from the HD0 guys is turn your TX power down, which is not a very satisfying answer because, like, I don't have to do that with DJI. I don't have to do that with analog. So why do I have to do it with HD0? And I don't know the answer, but there you go. Here's a question from the Discord. Freedom FPV asks, if I'm using a 51473 prop and have my dynamic idle at 30, your dynamic idle's at 3,000? That seems high to me. Am I crazy? Whatever. I switched to a 51373 prop. Should I lower my dynamic idle? So that just depends. I can't answer that question because the actual dynamic idle value, what I would do is I would want that dynamic idle to go as low as possible without stalling the prop. So as I understand it, the way that you approach digital dynamic idle is you find the throttle position at which the prop stalls, then you add a little bit to it to make sure it doesn't stall in the air, and that's what you would use. I don't think there's going to be a significant difference on the bench for sure. In terms of in the air, I'm not sure about that. I would think the 514 prop, having a higher pitch, would need just a little more torque to keep spinning at idle. So the 514 prop may need a slightly higher dynamic idle, but I don't think there's that much difference between them. And although I haven't tuned dynamic idle in a long time, a dynamic idle of 30 seems a little high to me, but I could be crazy. What's the default? The default for PID tuning. Oh, I need an actual flight controller. No, the virtual flight controller isn't going to work. Okay. Let's see. It's in the motors tab, actually. No, dynamic idle is here. D-shot telemetry's off. Fuck you. Bidirectional D-shot, agree. Dynamic idle. So why do I have to enable? Oh, because it's a PID. Yeah, dynamic idle. No, it is on. Oh my god, it's on though. Did I not save? You guys can't see what I'm doing at all. My bad. Bidirectional D-shot, agree, save and reboot. PID tuning. Dynamic idle value. Dynamic idle should be set to around 3,000 to 3,500 RPM. Okay, well, I guess 30 is a fine value. 30 is a fine value. Great. Well, then, if you set it to 20, I would be like, why are you setting it so low? Are you going to risk stalling the motor? And we've got a wiki entry here. I'm glad I looked that up. For 5 inches, 30 to 40 is a suitable starting point. I feel like when I did it myself, I got a lower value. I was able to fly with a lower value. But far be it from me to disagree with the Betaflight devs. Higher min RPM values will keep the motor spinning more quickly when throttle is cut. Or in strongly positive inflow states. Yeah. Lower idle values, improve inverted custom, greater risk of desync. Yeah, so there's some, it kind of depends on what you're going for. Are you going for inverted hang time, or are you going for better prop wash handling and smoother? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. I wonder what's the interaction between the dynamic idle and the D-shot idle. I think the D-shot idle is the absolute floor.
Yeah, I don't think it'll go under that level. Like, because the goal is to hit the RPM you've set, but...
Oh, so it'll drive the throttle as low as possible, but when the actual RPM gets to that value, then it'll raise the throttle to hold the RPM at the desired RPM.
Right.
But if the D-shot idle was higher, then you wouldn't be able to decelerate the motor as fast. Interesting. Okay. A theme park owner asked me to film, by the way, thank you Verbalance for being a patron and joining the Discord. A theme park owner asked me to film his park and make a little video for him. I never did that. I have no name in the game. How much money can I charge for an FPV video? I mean, there's people who would charge $1,500 a day. There's people who would charge $500 a day. The people charging $500 a day probably are not in a sustainable business model, but they may be making, some chump change here and there. Keep in mind that you will need a 107 if you want to do this legally.
Also, just don't forget, the quality could vary too. So, what equipment do you have? What are you filming this with? Does the person making $2,000 a day have better equipment than you? Really, the answer is you can charge what it's worth. If there's no FPV people around you and it would cost a marketing company $10,000 for him to do this, then maybe you can make $4,000. You know what I mean? Are you going to edit the video? Maybe you can make $500 because he doesn't care that much or he doesn't have a big budget for marketing on this thing, right? So I think you really have to there's a lot of variables that go into this.
Another way to look at it is the price is, there's two ways to look at it. One is that you will charge what you need to charge to make the amount of money that you need to make. Okay. So the guys out there who are charging $300, $500 for a fly through, ultimately that's not a sustainable business model for most people. Now, obviously everybody's different, right? But eventually you will crash or lose a quad and need to buy a new quad. You will crash your quad and break a window, and the customer will want you to pay for the window. Something will happen in your business. You will eat away at your profits with gas money on your car, and then your car will break down, and then you won't be able to get to a job, and you'll need to pay for the repair of your car. There are all these hidden costs to business, and somebody says, I went to work, and I worked for 4 hours, and I made $500. Well, that's a pretty freaking great deal. But you're not taking into account all those hidden costs that either haven't hit you yet, or you're people who do DoorDash and stuff, and they're not actually accounting for the wear and tear of their car when they think about how much money they made. And then eventually their car wears out, they have to buy a new car, and they don't have the money for it, right? Is a thing that happens to some people. The other thing that can happen is that you can be charging a small amount of money. Wait, crap, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Charging $500 a day, not enough money, sustainable business. The other side of it is, so you charge what you need to charge to make the amount of money you need to make your business sustainable and make you able to live the way you want to live. The other side of it is you charge what the customer is willing to pay. So, let's say that you're the best drone pilot in the world, and you charge $2,000 a day, and you've got work, you're booked for 6 months, you're booked out at $2,000 a day, you're doing great. And then this theme park owner comes along and says, hey, I see you fly drones. You want to do a little fly through of my theme park? And you go, sure, absolutely, $2,000. And he's like, I can't pay that. What, are you kidding me? What, do you think I'm made of money? Well, you're not going to get his business. But that's okay, because you got plenty of other business. So, how much should you charge him? I don't know. If you would do it for free just because you think it's fun, I mean, I would consider doing it for free just because you think it's fun, especially if you don't have any experience. A local guy who I know, who's a realtor, reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I've got this house. It's a multi-million-dollar house. It's going to be the most expensive house I've ever sold. It's completely staged. It's beautiful, and I want a drone fly through." And I said, at first we had been talking, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll come out. I'll do a drone fly through for you. Whatever, it'll be fun." And when I realized then I got busy, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't think I can do it." And he was like, "Look, I'll pay you." And I realized, oh shit, this guy's trying to hire me. We're not just friends sitting around talking, shooting the shit. And I was like, you know what? I don't do enough real estate fly-throughs to charge you money for a real estate fly-through. If we're just shooting the shit, I'll do it. I'll make you a little video and you can have fun with it. But if you actually need a quality video for a multi-million-dollar real estate listing, you need somebody who knows what the frick they're doing. So like if you've never done this kind of fly-through before, maybe you shouldn't charge him anything. And I know there's people who say never work for free, but like you don't know what the hell you're doing and you're just going to come out and do it for fun and say, look, I'll come out, I'll do it for fun, and I'll give you what I got. Go ahead, Blinty.
The part of the point here is that if you've never done this before, it's not free. You're getting free access into a place and building a portfolio with a client who needs it, right?
Yep.
So it would be free if you could go to any theme park and film anytime you want and put that on a portfolio and learn all the time, and you have a client you could work with and figure out you know what I mean? Like there's a part of learning the business, like learning how to do the job. What happens when you show up? How much equipment do you need? How many batteries do you need to take? How long are the filming pieces? How long should they be? What footage do you need before you go to editing? Are you going to have to edit it? Is somebody else? How many SD cards? Like there's all these pieces of information that come into a shoot, right? And like you're going to learn that value is going to come from being able to do it. So you've got to decide, like Bardwell saying, do you do it for free and get that experience on the thing? You build a portfolio, you get a client who likes you. Do you just need to find out if you can even do the job? Maybe you can't, but you did it for free, so nobody's on the line, right? It doesn't matter.
Yep.
So like, there's a lot of variables. The other thing to remember is if you ever want to do this for a business, like half that money is going to taxes. So don't forget about that.
I always say that, and I suspect that a lot of people out there are just working for cash and not reporting it on their taxes. And so, like, I usually, like, everybody has to drive to work. And, like, so, like, I talk about wear and tear in the car, gas, mileage, time, etc. I almost even don't bring up taxes because I feel like people go, oh, look at Goody Two-Shoes Bardwell paying his taxes. I'm like, what a loser, you know, but it's true. A substantial amount of it will go to taxes when you charge the customer. So taxes, payroll, all this bullshit. And if you're running a business and you're not doing that, then eventually it may bite you. Maybe it may not bite you. So
you pinned another message here, which is
I did.
Good thing to point out.
Hold on one second. Let's finish this thought though. So if this literally is your first time doing it and you literally would do it for free because it's fun, then tell the guy, look, I don't have any experience with this. I'll just do it for fun and for the experience, and I'll give you like what I get, but I don't have any expectation that it's going to be like excellent. I hope you like it, and we'll just do it as a trade. But you do want to be aware that there's a lot of people out there who are like, do this free work for me. It'll be good for your portfolio. And like, fuck those people. Right? Like eventually you reach a point where you have to value your time and value your work and charge what is a fair amount. And like you got to know when you reach that point. Right? But in this case, you may not be at that point. Yeah. So let's talk about this. If you do it for free, no Part 107 required. Let's take it in the chat. Hang on, Blunty, don't give away the answer. I'm going to do a poll. If you work for free, do you need a 107? If you do commercial work for free, so like a fly-through of an amusement park, a real estate fly-through, yes, no, start poll. Let's see what the chat says. If you do commercial for free, do you need a 107? Let's see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see the results in live. Though I can see the live results of the poll. That is correct. The chat is absolutely correct. You do need a 107. So, the way it works is, Blunty, tell me if I get this right. If the flight is purely for recreational purposes, then there's an exemption. I think it's Section 333, and you do not need a 107. If the flight is not purely for recreational purposes, then you need a 107. And here's the thing. Nowhere in there do they say, if you don't take any money for it, it's free. It's good. You're good to go. When I do a flight for an owner of a business with the expectation that I will give the owner of the business that footage and they will use it to aid their business, that is not a purely recreational flight. That is a flight in furtherance of a business interest, and you need a 107. It doesn't matter if money changes hands. The example I like to use is if my brother is a real estate agent, if my brother owns a car dealership, and he says, hey, you want to come fly your drone around my lot? If I go, yeah, I'd love to fly your drone around your lot, and if I just go out and I rip some packs, that's a recreational flight. But the minute he says, I want you to do a fly-through for me, and I'm going to put it on my website, you need a 107. Doesn't matter if money exchanged hands. Blunty, how'd I do?
That's correct. I think the way that I like to say it is, like Fancy Picker just said, was intent. So it's about the intent at the time of flight is what's really important. So there's going to be people in chat, I've already seen them say it, which is that you could just say that you intended to fly recreationally, right? You asked the guy who was there, he said, yeah, you could fly, no problem. And then you flew around, and then later he goes, hey, let me get that footage. And you go, well, okay, I was just flying for fun. And you go, okay, well, here's the footage. And then he does what he wants with the footage. Now, if you were to try to sell him that footage, I think you need the 107, even though you're selling it from recreational footage. That part I think that's a little fuzzy.
I think that your read of the ins and of the vagaries of the FAA is probably pretty accurate because you think about this stuff a lot. But like the example I like to use is if I'm flying at the park recreationally and during that flight aliens land and I capture the footage, the intent at the time of flight was sincerely and honestly purely recreationally. If I then sell the footage to the news, I don't retroactively need a 107, would be my argument. Do you think the FAA wouldn't, or the FCC? Yeah, the FAA wouldn't go for that?
That's an example. That's like one of the example questions, I think. It's like something similar to that. Like if you're filming recreationally and you see a crime or something, you can share that with the news without any penalty. But my question is, can you sell it to the news without any penalty?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. I didn't know if the sale makes any difference, right?
I would argue, and I think think this is right, that the intent at the time of flight is what matters. If I have let's say, I don't know, I could make up examples. If I sincerely flew a recreational flight with no non-recreational intent in my heart, and then later, for some reason, that footage becomes worth money, I can sell it. I will never have had a 107 at the time of flight, Plenty. What am I going to do? I'm going to go get a 107 before I receive the check? I didn't have a 107 when I took the flight, and I can never change that, would be my argument.
I understand, but the converse is that, like, if you did it more than once, like, obviously just as a way to circumvent the rule,
like people are like, aha, the loophole. All these flights that I'm doing are recreational, and I just so happen to sell them afterwards. Like, eventually the FAA, if the FAA is trying to ding you for not having a 107, they're going to be like, you're going to be in front of a judge. It's not like this is some magic get out of jail card. Eventually, the FAA finds you, and eventually you go in front of a judge and you say, Your Honor, all of these flights are recreational. And the FAA lawyer goes, this guy's full of shit. And then the judge goes, yeah, I think you're full of shit. And then, ding, you get fined. So, like, it's not a magic get out of jail free card.
The other thing to remember, for people who don't know that much about the situation, or just to paint the real picture here, enforcement is completely different than the conversation we're having. Right?
Yes.
The conversation we're having is about the legal rule and what you would want to do if you're trying to follow the rules by the letter, right? But like the chance that anybody's going to catch you, and the chance that you're going to get fined, as opposed to just some message from the FAA saying like, hey man, everything's cool, but you can't do this. Like, or hey, did you actually mean to do this? And then you're kind of be on the list or whatever, right? Like, that's sort of the idea, right? Like, the chances of you getting a fine for this immediately are very low, slim to none, I would say.
Yeah. Bob Bruce wants to know, I flew for a burnout contest. No money was exchanged. Nobody asked me for the footage. I made my own vids from them and shared them. Would that be considered recreational? I think that that's possible that would be recreational. There would need to be some details there. So, for example, Bob Bruce, if you run Bob Bruce's Drone Burnout Videos Incorporated, and your YouTube channel is all drone burnout videos, I think then if the FAA was like saying, hey, do you have a 107? Did you need one for this flight? And you were to go, no, it's purely recreational. And they'd be like, well, you've got this monetized YouTube channel and you're selling these DVDs of this exact same content you were making there. I don't believe you that it's recreational. But like, if there's no other evidence that there was a non-recreational intent at the time of flight, the fact that you distributed the footage doesn't make it commercial in nature, as long as you, like, especially if you didn't sell the footage. But even if you did sell the footage, like, I think you could try to argue that it was a recreational flight and only later did you change your mind. Although I think that argument it's kind of hard to, like, sell that argument to the, like, I wouldn't want to be in a position of making that argument to the FAA. I would be like, I would definitely have gotten a 107 if I was going to sell them, so I could at least say, yeah, no, I got a 107. Go ahead.
I suspect there's a reason the FAA uses only a similar example to what you did, which is something to the effect of, like, if you're doing something and then a crime happens or there's a fire or whatever, an extreme circumstance, then you can share that footage. I think they say that because, like, that's the interpretation they're going to use, right? The goal is for you not to build a business out of flying recreationally and avoiding getting a 107. It's a test and a license to the government, and then you're done, right? So they just want you to get the stupid license. That's kind of the idea behind it. So.
What about this one, Blunty? My friend got his roof redone, and he asked me to take my drone up and look at his roof. No money changed hands, no favors changed hands. It was purely just a favor to a friend. But was it recreational? Do I need a 107 for that? What's your opinion?
You do need a 107 for that. The FAA specifically uses that example. You are doing commercial work. Commercial work is viewing a roof. It is not recreational to view a roof.
Right. You are inspecting the quality of the work that was done.
You could look at your own roof. Now, he could fly the drone and look at his own roof, okay?
But why? That's not recreational.
His roof. No, but you're doing work on your own house, so it's DIY. It's like electrical. You don't need a permit or whatever. That's my understanding of how it works. It's for your own equipment.
That doesn't make any sense. That's totally arbitrary.
My understanding is if you're doing it on your own, it's not commercial. If you're doing a job for someone else, even if it's for free, you're trading something, right?
I believe you, but do you see that that's totally arbitrary? If the threshold,
but I can define the difference.
If the threshold is purely recreational purpose, and they're saying that if I'm inspecting a roof, that's not recreation, unless I just happen to really like looking at roofs, recreation. No, if I'm inspecting the quality of the work to assess the quality of the work, the FAA says that's not recreational. It shouldn't matter whose damn roof I'm looking at. Either it's recreational or it's not. I would argue.
I'm just saying I know that specific example is used, and I guess I don't know if they mean you can do your own, but my understanding was you could fly over your own house. But either way, the whole point of this is that none of that matters. You could fly over your friend's roof recreationally and share the footage. That's the point of this. It's about intent.
Nobody cares. Nobody
can tell you if you can fly over somebody else's roof or not. If you happen to give him the footage later and he happens to use it for that, that has nothing to do with you, so it's completely fine.
And the reality is that it's fun to kind of nitpick these because it's like interesting to think about the law. But the reality is nobody cares. Yeah, put your DJI Mavic up and take pictures of your friend's roof and tell them, hey, your shingles are screwed up. No one cares. No one cares. It's only in egregious cases where the FAA becomes aware of something crazy going on that they even try to enforce this. Okay.
Rick LeBlanca says, this discussion shows how not thought out the regulation is. That's every single regulation. Go look at any regulation and how it's applied. Yep. It's the same.
Yep. All right, moving on. Good discussion. Thank you, Blunty. Thanks for your contribution there. Blunty, I always rely on him when it comes to questions about regulations and stuff because he works with the FPV Freedom Coalition, fpvfc.org, in advocacy organization. I think advocacy is fair to say, who tries to help shape and direct drone-related regulation in the United States and help educate and assist drone pilots. I had a guy contact me recently, Blunty, and he said his FRIA application had been rejected several times. And I said, reach out to the FPV Freedom Coalition, and I'll bet you they can help figure out why it's getting rejected and help you sort of structure it so that it can be more likely to be approved. And that's the kind of thing you guys do. So kudos. Let's take this question from Farmer Trucker, who is also in the Discord. Hang on. No, this is too good. I got to get this one. I'll come back to you, Farmer Trucker. With the new Supreme Court decision about Chevron deference, how much of Part 107 did Congress write? I am not a lawyer, so you should take this as the blatherings of a non-lawyer. But I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I'll tell you my opinion. I feel like the argument that the Chevron deference decision means 107 and so forth are, remote ID are, just withheld, invalid. I don't think that has a lot of weight, because I think that of the regulations that you might point to, I feel like the FAA regulations have more statutory basis than some of the other ones that people have pointed to. There is like the FAA Reauthorization Act and so on, and I think they provide a stronger statutory basis. Also, keep in mind that Chevron deference doesn't say that every regulation without a statutory basis is invalid. And you can watch Legal Eagle. Legal Eagle is a YouTube channel about the law. He's one of the best, I think, and he has a video about the Chevron decision. The striking down Chevron deference, if you will, simply means that the court is not obligated to respect the regulations if they don't have a statutory basis. But the court may still just decide to respect the regulations and let them stand, even if they don't have a statutory basis. So I just don't think there's any world where the Chevron decision affects remote ID or 107 in any way. Because I hear people and they're like, aha, with the Chevron decision, all of this is moot. I can do whatever I want. And I'm like, that is not how it works. Okay, Farmer Trucker says, I'm going to rebuild my 3.5-inch grinder Reno, and I was thinking about throwing an 03 in it. Is this a good idea, or should I put a Vista in it? No, do a 03. I mean, assuming it'll fit, and I think it will. The 03 is a fine air unit. The Vista is harder and harder to get. It's still out there. The Vista, I mean, like, there's things that the Vista has more flexibility in the camera, but it doesn't have onboard recording. So the image quality of the 03 is better, but like if you wanted a low light camera, the Vista would make more sense. So like there's no like right or wrong answer there, but in general, if you just want good image quality, the Vista, it depends on the goggles, the frame rate you get. Yeah, I think a lot of people would be happy with the 03. What motors are good for 7 to 10 inch long range? For 7 inch, like a 2806 to 2808 sized motor is a good choice. For 10 inch, what size motor does the Helion come with? I don't know a 10 inch motor off the top of my head. Motor 3110, yes. So 3110 is a good size for 10 inch. I've seen some other 3110s on 10 inch. There you go. I just couldn't remember the number, but I was like, whatever the Helion has, I know that's about it. Oh my God, Blunty, somebody mentioned USV Cosby.
I was trying not to bring up Cosby in the chat. Somebody asked about a court case, and I just said that older court case doesn't apply instead of saying Cosby, because I know Cosby triggers you in the chat.
Yeah. Everybody's
TLDR, like, Cosby does not apply.
Cosby does not apply. Everybody, here's the thing, and I feel I don't want to be this guy. I shouldn't be this guy. When somebody like walks in the door and they're like, "Hey, I'm new here. Have you guys thought about this thing?" Like I want to be like, "Yes, welcome to the club. Hi, we're glad you're here." But like on some level, the 38,000th time somebody was like, "Hey, you guys, have you considered that USV Cosby means that and you own the airspace above your house?" And I'm like, yes, we've all considered it. This is not an original thought. Will you, I don't know. It just gets old. Fancy Picker says he was joking. Okay, well, you've triggered me.
I'll just be the other shoulder and other person on the shoulder and say that, like, it's easy to understand why you would think it would, but it is not historically applied.
It is. It is.
FAA says they own to the blade of grass. They've said that in a meeting as recent as like 6 months ago. They really, 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 really think they own to the blade of grass. They probably don't, but that needs to be argued out.
Yeah, here's the thing. The FAA is like, this is how it is. And then you're like, but there's this case law that says it's not like that. And the FAA is like, what are you going to do about it? You going to sue us? Shut up. And then if you do sue them, they go to the court, and the judge is like, no, clearly the FAA is right here. What are you guys talking about? Get the hell out of here. And then you just wasted tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars suing a federal agency. So like it's like the people who read the law and they're like, hey, you can't do that. And the cop is like, well, I'm doing it. What are you going to do about it? And then you're like, oh, I see. The justice doesn't work like I think it would in my mind. So like whatever, UFC Cosby doesn't say that. But even if it did, the FAA is like, what are you going to do about it? And then what are you going to do about it?
I will say, though, I do think this is one of the cases where Chevron could apply if somebody finds a reason to sue the FAA. Because there is no piece of a document anywhere that says they own to the blade of grass. That's a made-up statement by the FAA. That is not in the regulation.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to get a court to agree. That's the problem.
Right.
All right. Let's see here. Has Walksnail caught up to the V2 goggles in the Vista? Seriously considering getting it. The V2 goggles in the Vista? Sure, I'll give Walksnail that. It's still not as good as the O3. Just gut check. I don't have like a rigorous long-range test to compare. There are differences in the way that they perform. Like Walksnail, I think, tends to be a little more stable with the bit rate, whereas DJI tends to waver around more. So, like, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. But overall, I'd say the usable range of Walksnail is similar to the V2 and the Vista, not as good as the O3. Will the DJI O3 Air unit plug into the Foxeer Reaper AIO BLS?
You ever feel like sometimes this is like wiring diagrams to show?
Yeah, I do. Yep. This is the AIO. Where's the frickin' plugs? It doesn't have a digital. Does it have a digital plug? No, that's not a digital plug. That's the ESC plug. No, there's no ESC plug. It's an all-in-one. What the fuck is this plug? Battery, ground, TX2, RX2, ground. Okay, so you can't. No, the O3 will not plug directly in here, but this plug has all the pins you need to power an O3. It's got VBAT, ground, TX2, RX2, ground, and RX1. There's just this extra 5 volt. So what I would do is I would make a custom pin. Oh, I bet you could just plug the O3 in and just plug it in and just sort of cock it to the side and jam it in there. I don't know if that's a good idea, but I bet you could. Yeah, like this. But I don't want to. You would do like this. You could do the O3 exactly like that. Assuming it's right side up. Ooh, is it left to right or right to left? I don't know. Which way does the O3 go? And then where the hell would you put your receiver? No. This is no good. I guess you could solder your receiver. That's okay. That would work. I think you could make it work, but you'd end up making a custom plug for the O3. Oh, hang on. Come on. Show me now, O3. Which way does the O3 plug go? You want to make sure that the O3 plug is going left to right and not right to left, or you'll put VBAT where it doesn't belong and fry it. I think there's a chance that it would plug in here, and if you just either made a custom plug to not with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you'd have a 7-pin housing and you just leave the last pin off and ignore the 5 volts. Or if you just take the O3 plug and just jam it in on the first 6 pins, I think it would work. But double check the order is left to right and not right to left, and you're not about to fry it. Let's get a couple more super chats out of the way. Callan Ferguson says, will bent motor shafts cause freakouts during flips and roll? Yeah. Yes. I mean, like, sorry, that was me. That wasn't your USB unplugging. That was me. Apologize for that. Yes, they can. Don't fly with bent motor shafts. That just makes a lot of problems. You need to replace the bell or replace the motor, period. Icarus says, I'm setting up an Avatar HD V2. HD isn't an option in the OSD tab, and set OSD canvas isn't a valid command in the CLI. My guess is you have a very old version of Betaflight you need to update to a newer version of Betaflight. The high definition OSD and the digital OSD was added in, well, digital OSD was added like 5 years ago, so that was actually a while ago, but I'm guessing the HD OSD, it was only in like 4.4 and 4.5, I believe. So you might even, I think it's 4.4. So I would update the firmware to get those features. Alan Hill says, I made a 7-inch. When I fly with my 4S lithium ion, it seems fine. When I use a 6S LiPo, it falls out of the sky. I mean, my guess is that the motor KV is too high. And so when you go to 6S, you're getting desyncs because the motors are spinning too fast and you're desyncing them. You could use a motor output limit in the PID tuning tab to scale the motor RPM down scale it down to like 70%, and that might fix it. That's in the PID tuning tab. There's a motor output limit. Speaka, thank you for $2. My girlfriend turns your videos off while I'm sleeping. No, leave the videos playing while you're sleeping. It's good for my analytics. Just turn the volume down if you don't want to see them. Woonex, thank you for a $20 super chat. Very generous. Thank you. I have two identical ELRS remotes with the same binding, two identical remotes, two quads with the same binding phrase. How do I make this work? Don't want to memorize this remote has this quad because there's the same hardware. Had one remote control. You can't do what you're trying to do. If you want two remotes with two quads, either only have one remote turned on at a time, or if two remotes have the same bind phrase, you cannot have them both turned on at the same time. Period. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. Don't do it. If you want to control two quads with two remotes at the same time, they need to have a separate binding phrase. Period. Would it work if you had... No, it wouldn't work. Never mind. I'm not even going to say that. Trying to reduce the Helium 10 vibration from wind during cruise. iFlight replaced my top and bottom plate. Didn't fix. Tried pit tuning. No fix. Levi, thank you for $5 Canadian dollars. I'm sorry. I can't fix this issue for you. You are one of many. I'm going to say many. Maybe that's unfair. You are one of more than a few people, let's say that, who have problems with vibration on the Helium 10 and cannot fix it. And I see them out there on Reddit and so forth. And how many people are there, right? It's hard to say. I don't want to overstate the issue. Maybe there's thousands and thousands of people flying the Helium 10 with no issue, and it's just a few unlucky people who just can't solve the issue. But I will say you're not alone. And I've heard from people, and iFlight has given them PID tunes and PWM changes and changed the carbon fiber plates. iFlight is doing everything they can to fix this issue, and for some people it fixes it, and for some people it doesn't. And I'm not going to presume that I could make some brilliant suggestion on my live stream that is going to fix it better than all of the work that iFlight's engineers have put into this, which is substantial. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to fix this for you. iFlight needs to fix this. So far... For you, at least, it seems like they haven't. And that sucks. Okay. All right, that's the super chats. I wish I could do better for you, but I can't. What's a cheap transmitter that's compatible with the DJI O3 system? Blue Flame, stop shouting. We don't need to use all caps. If you mean... directly, what's that?
He messed up his question. He actually means goggles, and chat has answered him as the goggles V2.
Okay, great. The V2 goggles?
Cheapest for the O3, right?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Cheap, sure. V2 goggles is the cheapest. Yeah, that makes sense. Ghost Branch wonders, back when the first DJI Avata came out, people took it apart to salvage the O3 VTX and camera for their FPV builds before the DJI Air unit came out. Why is no one experimenting with parts from the Avata 2 to make an O4 FPV quad before the O4 system comes out? And is the O4 cam by any chance compatible with the O3 Air unit? I don't think the O4 cam is compatible with the O3 Air unit, although I don't know that anyone has tested that. The O3 cam was not compatible with any other Air unit, and the Vista cams are not compatible with the O3, so it seems like the cameras are not cross-compatible between generations, although I can't say that for a fact because I haven't tested it, neither has anyone else, as far as I know. I think that most people are pretty happy with the O3. The O4 in the Avata is not a night and day improvement over the O3. It's a pretty marginal improvement. And so I suspect like the difference between the Vista and the O3 was pretty huge. And I think there was a big demand there. I suspect that many people are just sort of satisfied with the O3's performance and they're not willing to buy a whole freaking Avata just to get the O4 out of it, especially because the O4 seems like it's going to release soon, as evidenced by the fact that the O3 recently had a price reduction. Ghost Branch thinks the O4 is a dramatic improvement over the O3. Well, if you say so. I mean, I flew it around my place, but maybe that's not enough testing.
The O4 was not released.
No. It seems likely that it's coming soon because the O3 had a price reduction. Siati says the O4 is pretty incredible in low light compared to the O3. That certainly was one of the weaknesses of the O3. That's for sure.
If there's any confusion, the reason we're saying 04 is because of the question, right? The Avata 2 has an 04 in it, presumably. It's called OcuSync 4, and it is a newer generation.
Let's see here. Huh. Let's see here. What am I going to do? Double Deuce. Again, thank you for being a patron, Double Deuce, and thanks for joining the Discord server. I've recently discovered that 3.5-inch quads are easier for me in almost all respects than 5-inch. When I eventually get into racing, can I just show up with a 3.5-inch? Yeah, absolutely. And race with everyone? Sure. Or is there a best 3.5-inch for this mission? I don't know what the best one would be. 3.5-inch drones can be really fast. I think you should look at the Tiny Trainer. The Tiny Trainer is a 3-inch spec drone that's specifically made for racing, and it's pretty badass. It's not going to be as fast as a 5-inch unless you're an exceptional pilot, but you're going to have a good time at the race, and it's reasonably durable. If you already have a 3.5-inch, just use it. Yeah, no one will care. They'll let you race it. You won't win, but you weren't going to win anyway, so just have a good time. What black box on the bench behind me? I don't know what you're talking about. Those are batteries from my gate opener. No. I built a new quad, and when I try to fly, I turn on the throttle, the drone lifts in the air, and then the motor's shut off. It sounds like you're having an anti-TAS situation. It's disarming itself because there are 4 things that cause this. The flight controller alignment is incorrect, so the flight controller is rotated and not facing forward, and you didn't compensate that for that in software. The motor position is wrong, so the flight controller thinks motor 1 is in the back right, but you've actually wired it to the front right or something like that. The motor direction is wrong. A clockwise spinning motor is spinning counterclockwise or vice versa. Or the props are on wrong. You have a clockwise prop on a counterclockwise spinning motor or vice versa. Those 4 things are always what cause this issue. And everyone says, I know for a fact I checked all 4 of them and that's not it. And almost always someone that when you go back and double, triple, quadruple check, you find that you missed something. That's almost all of it. Let's see here. What do you think about the AKK Alpha 10? You guys know about this? This is the video transmitter to end all video transmitters. It is a 10-watt video transmitter. 10 watts! Oh my God. Why don't I just buy that? Well, part of the reason you don't buy it is it's freaking enormous. Can we see it in a video? So 10,000 milliwatts. Okay. I hate you. 10,000 milliwatts. You know what 10,000 milliwatts is? 10 watts. Just say 10 watts.
Bigger number, better.
Oh my God. Well, why don't we use picowatts then?
I already bought. Hey, you're changing the game.
So look how freaking big these things are. This is the 10 watt, and I guess that's the 4 watt. They're enormous. But if you figure out how to get one into a quad, then notice that he didn't get it into the quad. He got it onto the top, at the bottom of the quad. It will be destroyed in a crash if you crash. But for the test, it's okay. This is for big quads where you have a lot of room to mount it. And here we go. I mean, it's still breaking up like analog. How far away is he? Where does he take off from? Okay, here we go. Well, I'm right next. Where is he standing? Is he behind the barriers? There he's standing. I'm right next to myself, and I'm still seeing little jitters, even though I'm transmitting 10 watts. Analog gonna analog. He is currently... Okay. There he is. So... Oh, well, now I don't know where you are. I don't know where you are relative. So how with that cut, I have no idea how far away you are. You going to show me? Still getting some breakup. So, like, one thing to keep in mind is the way that power works relative to distance. If you have a 1 watt video transmitter and you go to 4 watts, that doubles your distance. If you have 4 watts and you go to 8 watts, that's about 1.4 times the distance. So we have double the distance plus 1.4 times the distance going from 1 watt to 8 watts. In other words, it seems like 1 watt to 10 watts is a massive increase, but you're only getting a little more than double, maybe triple the distance, which is still, I mean, that's a lot. But it's not as much as the 10 watts might make you think. You know what I mean? 10 watts is a lot, don't get me wrong. And double the distance is a lot. That's more. But it's not like going to be something miraculous. And as you can see here, I mean, he's not 50 kilometers away, and he's still getting breakup through the trees, even with this gigantic freaking video transmitter.
Is this just how analog is? It's been this long, or is that DVR you think that's causing it to look that bad?
No,
like,
I
where
think
it's got
that's
that
what-
much horizontal banding.
I think that's just what the analog looks like.
It just seems like it's in the same place. I don't know. Like, sometimes you can get nice, clear analog video, and there's a lot of horizontal
We're gonna
banding.
get any flight video off of this guy? No flight video off of this guy. How about this one? Flight video? Flight video? Oh, got a plane. Come on, baby. Put that plane up. Give me the video. Okay, that's not video. We're gonna see it fly? Okay.
You switched to feed. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on here. Oh, here we go. We got it. Good. Oh my God. Look at that. You talk about that horizontal banding? That's not normal. See, there we go. That's plenty of room for that video transmitter. That's what a plane launch sounds like to me. Ooh. Okay. That's a lot of shit on your OSD, buddy. Oh God, no, that's not normal. That's a problem with his build. So yeah, what's your distance? Where's the distance home? 500 meters. He's flying out. 4 kilometers. Do we fail safe, or do you turn around because your battery's dead? 4.5 kilometers. See, that's the thing. He gets out 4 kilometers. I don't know. Did he go further? Like, you can go 4 kilometers on 2 watts if you set it up right. So I feel like here's my take on this. If you already have your antenna set up really well, then increasing output power can get you more range. But most of the time, what's limiting your range is not the output power of your VTX, but the quality of your antenna setup. Because people out there go kilometers. There's people who have gone kilometers on 25 milliwatts. Now, I'm not saying that's normal or recommended, but if you've got 2 watts, 1.6 watts or something like that, and you can't get like tens of kilometers on that, then I think you should focus on your antenna setup and not your output power.
It's also probably worth mentioning, this might be so much power that a couple, like as a couple chatters have mentioned, you might be running into like reflection issues at shorter ranges that you would never see with like a 1 or 2 watt, VTX. Like you're just going to be slamming so many signals out there that you might get a ton more reflections than normal.
Yeah. And by reflections, you mean like internal to the antenna, to like SWR issues, right?
Possibly, but I meant more like out. Like if you're in a room, you're going to be, and you're slamming 10 watts out, even out in a field or out against buildings, like everything's going to be reflecting back at you. Whereas normally you might not have any strength on those coming back to you,
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. I've recently seen videos of people putting Nerf blasters on their FPV drones. Is this not illegal? I don't think that's illegal, and it's not a firearm. Blunty? Opinion? Nerf blaster? Good to go.
Yeah, I'm sure that's fine.
Yeah.
Seems fine. I think you kind of do sort of have a tutorial, right? You did a collaboration with...
Well, yeah, I guess.
Right?
I did a collaboration with... one of my favorite days as a YouTuber was when Ren from Corridor Digital reached out to me. Somehow he got my name. They apparently watched my content, and he was making.
So I am currently trying to remake a Nerf gun. How do I? I'm trying to convert a racing drone into a Nerf gun. Let's put it that way.
So what kind of control? And I helped him. I didn't didn't do a tutorial for the gun itself, but he was trying to figure out how to actuate the motors, and we came up with a solution for that. And it was really fun to get to talk to one of the content creators I watch on YouTube and look up to and respect. To help him. And if you want to, like this video, 62,000 views. Not that many in the grand scheme of things. But I got a boost on my subscribers from this video, and specifically from... this video, 11 million views. I believe I got a shout out or I got a link. For a year, my subscriber count, my typical subscriber count is around, say, at the time it was, I think, around 2,500 to 3,000 a month new subscribers. And it jumped to like 4,000 a month and stayed elevated for like a year off the strength of just this video. So if you want to know how he built it, you need this video. I don't think he actually put content of me in the video. That would have been badass. Oh, that guy kind of looks like me, but it's not. Anyway. Oh, there it is. Hang on. Oh my God.
His name is Joshua Bardwell. He is an amazing YouTuber who works on drones for beginners like you. Fortunately, he was able to solve my problem. Now, we actually made a video for his channel where we go over my problem and his solution for it. Check it out on his channel, description in the link below. So with my problem solved and
That's amazing. I forgot about he did that. I'm so proud right now. Ren from Corridor Crew shouted me out in a video. I'm so proud. I wish I had a better... I wish my set was better. Ugh. Look how shitty my lighting is. Jesus Christ. What am I doing with my life? I don't know. I didn't have a beard then either. That was really cool. I actually kind of forgot that. I mean, I didn't forget that happened, but that he actually gave me a full shout out in a Quarter Crew video. That's badass. A little bit. So that was going to be my big leap into the big time. Didn't work out that way. Anyway, all right, guys, we're coming to the end. Blunty, how are we doing on Super Chats? No new Super Chats. That's good, I guess. We'll get a couple more questions in, and then we will wrap up for the evening. I need to let you know there will be a news tomorrow, even though I haven't scheduled it yet. Oops. But there will be a news tomorrow, so FPV News is coming back as well.
I think it's going to be 30 minutes earlier than normal, right?
I was going to surprise him and not tell him that.
Oh, okay. That's good to do when people are supposed to show up for something.
Yeah, so it's going to be at 5:30 because I have a scheduling issue. It's going to be at 5:30, not 6, and you'll see that when I create the event. Also, Aaron Ciati FPV, is in the chat, and he's going to be streaming at 10 o'clock when I knock off. And he is going to be doing the ultimate beta FPV Air 65 build. He is posting a link in the chat if you want to check that out. And whenever I get off the air, you can check that out. I lost my quad this weekend. I lost video abruptly in a high power loop and tried to fly blind back, but reception ended up in the forest somewhere. What should I have done differently? Disarm and drop? Man, that's a tough one. Like, the first question I would have is, why did you lose video? Did you lose video because you were flying too close to the edge of your range? Did you lose video because your video transmitter lost power? I would try, if possible, to post-mortem why I lost video, because that, of course, is the primary problem here. And then I would try to think about what I would do in the future to not lose video. As far as whether to disarm or fly back, that's a judgment call. I can't make that judgment call. I wasn't there. If I was in the middle of a power loop and lost video, I feel like my chances of getting it upright again are basically zero. I feel like I would disarm. If I was flying straight forward, like if you're in the middle of a power loop and you lose video, maybe there's a chance you could quickly flip it into angle mode and like hover at line of sight and try it fly back line of sight. But flying it back blind, not going to happen. Really unlikely. Maybe if you could get it to climb, you could get video back. So like, but what are the chances that you're going to lose video and then realize you lost video and go, oh shit, what do I do? And then boom, get it into angle mode and climb out before you've crashed. Like, a power loop doesn't leave you a lot of freaking room to recover. So I don't think you really had a chance.
Also, if you don't use angle mode that much on your drone, it's very possible you have an accel that goes out of like sync when you're 3 minutes into the flight or 5 minutes into the flight, and you'll flip to angle and you just fly straight towards the ground anyway. So. Yeah. So I would probably disarm if I lost video in the middle of a power loop. And then you need to find the drone. So you would want a self-powered beeper on the drone so that if you eject the battery, the drone will still go beep, 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 and you'll be able to find it. So, yeah. Slenderman Gaming says, I'm new to all this. I'm looking to get my first drone. I got the Radiomaster Pocket. I put 30 hours into the flight sim. Good man. I was thinking of getting the iFlight Nazgul Eco. That's a fantastic idea. And as far as goggles, I think you should get, if you get the Nazgul Eco, I believe it comes in both an analog and a DJI version. If you're getting the analog version, I think what's your budget for goggles? That's the question. The SkyZone Sky 04X is a very good analog goggle. As far as digital, with the 03, I probably would get the DJI goggles Integra. Yep.
Hey, Rivey, I want to acknowledge this question. Rivey, because you're a patron and you're in the Discord, I feel like I owe it to you. I just purchased the IRC power meter and the Nano VNA. Do you have any tutorials or some good links on how to use them? I'll tell you, Rivey, I actually just bought a Nano VNA literally last week. I also am looking for some good tutorials on how to use it. I do not know how to use it, and I cannot refer you to any, but I just thought you'd like to know we're in the same boat. All right, guys, that is going to bring us to the end of the stream. It's 2 or 3 minutes early, but that's okay. We'll let Siati take the floor. Thank you guys for coming out. I will see you tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. for the news. And thank you guys for everything. And that's it. We're done.
And just to point out, next week, we should be back next week, right? Like, that's the plan. We'll be here again. Which is surprising because we haven't been. But the goal
we haven't had 2 weeks in a row in a while. But today,
it's been a minute.
This is the week for us. We're back.
We're back.
Until next time I go away. But not for a little while. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.